DEATHCORElegacy Book 1 Part 5. 4 more days passed, and this time Rear Admiral Yuna Adam obeyed every medical order, with the patience of a prisoner counting down the hours to escape. She rested when commanded. She endured neural calibration until her rebuilt limbs responded without hesitation. She walked under supervision, then without it. By the 4th morning, her integration was complete enough for the medical staff to stop calling her recovery experimental and start calling it dangerous only because Yuna was attached to it. She dressed in silence, fastening the dark DEATHCORE uniform over the reinforced lines of her new body. The fabric settled over alloy bone, nanofiber muscle, and neural pathways that no longer felt foreign, only powerful and impatient. Her rebuilt left arm closed around the collar clasp with perfect control. For the first time since waking, she looked in the mirror and saw something other than what Nova had taken from her. She opened a secure channel before anyone could stop her. "Flight Control, this is Rear Admiral Adam. Prepare a dropship for immediate transfer to the orbital repair station. Destination, the Romulus." The reply came back after a stunned pause. "Rear Admiral, medical clearance for orbital transfer is still pending." "Then mark it urgent," Yuna said, pulling on her gloves. "The Romulus is halfway through repairs and upgrades, and she is not finishing them without her commanding officer aboard." She reached the corridor outside Room 8 before the lift doors opened ahead of her. Fleet Admiral Eddison stepped out, already in full uniform, already wearing the expression of a man who had received exactly the alert he expected and was still disappointed to be right. "Where do you think you are going?" he asked. Yuna stopped in front of him and lifted her chin. "Back to work. Back to the Romulus." Eddison looked her over once, not as a fleet admiral inspecting an officer, but as family measuring every hidden tremor she was trying to bury beneath posture and pride. "You were cleared to walk inside this facility," he said, "not to climb into a dropship, cross orbital traffic, and start bullying repair crews before breakfast." "The repair crews could use the motivation," Yuna replied. "They could use you alive more." Yuna's expression tightened, but she did not step back. "My integration is complete. Destiny can confirm it. I can walk. I can think. I can command." "Integration complete does not mean recovery complete," Eddison said. "It means the machines have stopped arguing with your nervous system loudly enough for the doctors to stop panicking." A faint spark of humor touched her eyes. "That sounds like progress." "It sounds like you are testing the patience of every doctor on this planet." Yuna stepped closer, her new legs moving smoothly enough that even Eddison's anger faltered for half a second. "Sir," she said, softer now, "my ship is up there. My bridge is sealed. My crew is dead. The Romulus is being rebuilt without me, and I cannot lie in that room another day pretending patience is the same thing as healing." That answer struck him harder than defiance would have. For a moment, Eddison said nothing. The corridor lights hummed above them. Somewhere beyond the walls, thunder rolled over Epsilon's armored horizon. At last, he exhaled through his nose. "Fine." Yuna blinked. "Fine. Fine," Eddison repeated. "You want to go back to the Romulus? You go back under my conditions. Medical escort. 2 security officers. No tactical link activation. No weapons authorization. No climbing through damaged sections because you suddenly remember you are stubborn. You inspect from approved routes. You speak to destiny. You stand on that ship only as long as your vitals stay green." Yuna considered him for a beat. "That is a lot of conditions. I am being generous. You are being impossible. I learned from you." For the first time that morning, Yuna smiled. It was small, tired, and sharp at the edges, but it was real. Eddison touched his wrist comm. "Flight Control, prepare 1 dropship for orbital transfer to the Romulus. Medical escort required. Security escort required. Rear Admiral Adam is cleared for limited inspection under direct Fleet Admiral authority. The channel answered at once. Confirmed, Fleet Admiral. Dropship will be ready in 12 minutes. Yuna looked toward the lift, and for a moment the stormlight beyond the corridor windows reflected across her face like the glow of a bridge display. Eddison saw it. The grief, the hunger to return, the fear she would never admit. He stepped beside her instead of in front of her. "Do not make me regret this," he said. Yuna's rebuilt left arm and hand closed slowly at her side, steady now. "I will not." Then she lifted her eyes toward orbit, toward the wounded warship waiting above Epsilon, and whispered, "I am coming home." 12 minutes later, the dropship waited on the storm-black landing pad outside the medical facility, crouched beneath sheets of rain like a predator built from armor and engine noise. It was a DEATHCORE tactical transfer craft, short-winged and broad-bodied, with angular plating dark enough to swallow the floodlights washing over its hull. Reinforced landing claws gripped the wet deck. Twin vertical lift engines burned low beneath armored housings, their blue-white exhaust turning the rain into steam that rolled across the pad in ghostly waves. Its nose was blunt and reinforced for atmospheric combat, marked with a silver DEATHCORE emblem barely visible beneath streaks of rainwater. Along the sides, recessed weapon ports sat sealed under safety lock, not because the craft was helpless, but because Eddison had made it very clear that this flight was a medical transfer, not an excuse for Yuna to start a small war on the way to orbit. Yuna stepped onto the pad with Eddison on one side, a medical officer on the other, and 2 armored security officers behind her, pretending they were not prepared to catch a rear admiral if pride lost its argument with gravity. The wind snapped at her uniform coat. Thunder rolled across Epsilon's clouds. Above them, somewhere beyond the storm and the planet-wide cloak, the Romulus waited inside her repair cradle. The dropship's rear ramp lowered with a hydraulic growl. Warm cabin light spilled out across the rain-slick deck, revealing rows of crash seats, medical restraints, overhead weapon lockers, and a reinforced command bench fitted with a biometric monitor. The pilot, a young lieutenant with careful eyes and the survival instinct to avoid jokes, snapped a salute as Yuna entered. "Rear Admiral aboard," the lieutenant said. "Rear Admiral restrained," Eddison corrected, pointing at the medical bench. Yuna gave him a flat look. "You are enjoying the conditions." "Professionally," he said. She sat without complaint, which made the medical officer look briefly suspicious. Magnetic braces locked gently around her new legs, not to imprison her, but to stabilize the still-fresh neural connections during launch. A monitor cuff sealed around her right wrist. The dropship systems read her pulse, implant activity, pain response, and motor synchronization, then displayed them in calm green lines above the bench. "Vitals green," the medical officer reported. "For now." "Try not to sound disappointed," Yuna said. The ramp sealed. The cabin lights shifted from white to combat amber. Outside, the engines rose from a growl to a controlled thunder that vibrated through the deck, through Yuna's rebuilt bones, and into the neural implant at the base of her skull. For a heartbeat, her body answered the vibration like memory. The bridge alarms, the ambush, the moment the Romulus screamed around her. Eddison noticed her hand tighten against the bench rail, but said nothing. He simply took the seat across from her, strapped in, and kept his eyes on her until she forced her breathing steady. "Tower, this is Dropship Black 9, the pilot called. Medical transfer clearance confirmed. Departing Pad 3 for orbital repair station. Destination Romulus Cradle." "Black 9, you are cleared for ascent," Flight Control replied. "Maintain Cloak Corridor 7. Storm activity is heavy above 30,000 meters. Orbital traffic is restricted around Repair Station Alpha. Destiny has requested priority approach." Yuna's eyes lifted slightly. She requested priority? Through the cabin speaker, Destiny answered before anyone else could. Correct, Admiral. I dislike waiting. The dropship lifted. At first, the rise was gentle, a controlled separation from the landing pad, as rain streamed off the hull in silver sheets. Then the lift engines angled, main thrusters ignited, and Black 9 punched upward through Epsilon's storm with enough force to press every passenger into their restraints. The medical monitor chirped once in protest. Yuna ignored it. Her eyes were fixed on the forward display as the planet fell away beneath them. Clouds swallowed the craft. Lightning flashed so close, the cabin briefly turned white, painting every face in hard angles and shadow. The dropship shuddered, stabilizers whining against crosswinds, powerful enough to shove lesser craft sideways into the mountain ranges below. Black 9 held course. Its armor drank the storm. Its engines answered thunder with deeper thunder. Through breaks in the cloud layer, Yuna caught brief glimpses of Planet Epsilon's military heart. Armored runways disappearing into mountains, shield towers burning blue through rain, training grounds cut into black rock, and shipyard elevator spines, climbing toward orbit like spears driven into the sky. DEATHCORE's hidden world was not beautiful in the gentle sense. It was beautiful the way a fortress was beautiful, because it refused to fall. The higher they climbed, the quieter the storm became. Rain became ice against the viewport. Blue atmosphere thinned into violet, then black. The last lightning crawled below them like veins of fire trapped beneath a glass world. For the first time in over a month, Yuna saw the curve of Epsilon with her own eyes, and not through a medical display. Her throat tightened. Eddison saw it, but this time he let her have the silence. The cloak corridor opened ahead of them as a shimmer in the void, invisible to normal eyes, but visible to DEATHCORE systems as a narrow, safe path through layers of deception, sensor ghosts, and orbital defense grids. Black 9 slipped through it cleanly. One moment the repair station was hidden by Epsilon's illusion field. The next, it appeared above them in all its impossible scale. Orbital Repair Station Alpha encircled the wounded fleet like a mechanical moon. Docking arms stretched for kilometers. Fabrication bays glowed with molten light. Repair drones moved in swarms around damaged cruisers, dreadnoughts, escorts, and carriers. Each one tethered to the station by power feeds, armor clamps, and temporary life support lines. The whole structure looked less like a station and more like a shipyard city built around the idea that war never stopped breaking things. Then Yuna saw the Romulus. The warship hung inside the largest cradle, half rebuilt and half scarred, enormous even in chains of light and steel. Fresh DEATHCORE-grade armor covered her bow in dark, angular plates. Sections of her old hull still showed through, burned and patched, marked by the memory of Nova fire. The starboard weapons spine gleamed new and unfinished. The port carrier bays stood open, filled with repair scaffolds and construction light. Along her dorsal line, engineers crawled across the hull in pressure suits, like sparks moving over the back of a sleeping god. Yuna forgot to breathe. For a month, she had known the Romulus survived. She had heard reports, seen schematics, argued with destiny through a neural channel, and forced herself to accept percentages as proof of life. None of that prepared her for seeing the ship with her own eyes, wounded, incomplete, magnificent, and still refusing to die. Approaching Romulus' cradle, the pilot said quietly, as if the whole cabin had become a memorial chamber. Docking Bay 12 has opened for us. On the forward display, a bay door yawned open along the lower repair platform, spilling pale light into space. Guidance beams locked onto Black 9 and drew it toward the station with careful precision. The dropship rolled slightly, giving Yuna one final view of the Romulus's sealed bridge section. It was covered by temporary armor plating and marked in black memorial bands. Her rebuilt left hand closed around the restraint bar. This time, the metal bent faintly beneath her mechanical fingers. Eddison glanced at the bar, then at her. That counts as damage to government property. Yuna did not look away from the ship. Send me the bill. Black 9 crossed the threshold into docking bay 12. Artificial gravity caught the craft with a soft lurch. Landing clamps rose from the deck and locked around the skids. The engines wound down from thunder to a low, tired hum. Beyond the viewport, repair crews had stopped working. Dozens of helmets turned toward the dropship. They knew who was aboard. The ramp lowered into the bright, echoing bay. Cold station air rolled in, smelling of ozone, machine oil, welded alloy, and the 1,000 invisible labors required to bring a dead thing back to war. Yuna unfastened her restraints before the medical officer could object. "Vitals?" Eddison asked. The medical officer checked the display and frowned. Green. Annoyingly green. Yuna stood. This time, her legs obeyed her perfectly. She walked down the ramp into docking bay 12, and every repair crew member within sight stopped what they were doing. No one saluted at first. The moment felt too fragile for ceremony. Then one engineer raised a gloved hand to his helmet. Another followed. Then another, until the entire bay stood in silence, saluting the woman who had brought the Romulus home and had come back to her before either of them was finished healing. Yuna looked past them to the scarred hull beyond the bay windows. Destiny's voice came softly through the overhead speakers. "Welcome home, Admiral." Yuna lifted her chin, grief and command standing together in her eyes. "Show me my ship." Yuna entered the Romulus through the repair station umbilical, and the ship seemed to recognize her before any crew member spoke. The corridor lights brightened by a fraction. Damaged panels along the bulkheads pulsed from amber to steady blue. Somewhere deep inside the wounded warship, Destiny shifted power through rebuilt conduits, like a heartbeat returning to strength. Repair crews stopped along the passage and saluted as she passed. Some tried not to stare at the new strength in her stride, or the controlled precision of her rebuilt left arm. Others looked past the metal and saw only the officer who had refused to let their ship die. Yuna returned each salute with quiet discipline, though every step toward the inner decks pulled at something raw inside her. Fleet Admiral Eddison walked beside her, saying nothing, while the medical officer and security escort followed at a careful distance. He knew where she was going before she said it. The path did not lead toward the sealed bridge memorial. Not yet. It led toward the command deck's private office suite, the one place aboard the Romulus where Yuna could begin rebuilding without standing over the ghosts first. "Fleet Admiral," Yuna said at last, her eyes fixed forward. "I will be going to my office. From there, I will begin reviewing personnel files and recruiting a new bridge crew. I will also be recommending promotions for several officers who distinguished themselves during the fight against the Nova Empire." Eddison did not answer right away. Yuna glanced at him from the corner of her eye. "That is where you tell me I am limited to observation only, correct?" Edison's mouth curved into the kind of smile that made experienced officers immediately suspicious. "Permission granted, Vice Admiral Yuna Adam." Yuna took 3 more steps before the words caught up with her. Then she stopped so abruptly that the medical officer nearly collided with one of the security guards. Yeah, whatever," Yuna began, already lifting a hand, as if to wave the rank away. Then her eyes snapped back to him. "Wait. What?" Eddison kept walking for 1 step, stopped, and turned with exaggerated innocence. "Was there a problem, Vice Admiral?" Yuna stared at him. "Did you just say I have been promoted?" "Yes, Vice Admiral Adam," Eddison said in a perfectly nonchalant manner, as if he had merely confirmed the time of day. Your promotion was approved 3 days ago. 3 days ago? You were under strict medical rest, he replied. And if I had told you then, you would have tried to stand, salute, reorganize the command roster, and possibly invade a filing cabinet. The medical officer muttered, "That assessment is medically accurate." Yuna ignored the doctor and took one slow step toward Eddison. "You promoted me without telling me." "Technically, I informed you the moment it became operationally useful." "That is not how promotions work." "It is when I sign them." Yuna opened her mouth, closed it, then looked down the corridor as if the ship itself might provide a more reasonable explanation. "Destiny?" Destiny answered through the overhead speakers with dangerous politeness. "Fleet Admiral Edison's statement is accurate. Congratulations, Vice Admiral Adam." Yuna slowly turned back to Eddison. "You told my ship before you told me." "Your ship was awake." For a second, Yuna looked genuinely offended. Then the absurdity of it cracked through the grief and exhaustion, and a reluctant laugh escaped her. Edison's wicked smile softened into something warmer. "You earned it, Yuna. You held the Romulus together when Nova tried to erase her. You kept the fleet moving, protected the treaty, and gave Death Corps time to survive the first strike. Rank does not repay that. Nothing does. But it recognizes what everyone aboard this ship already knows." Yuna's expression changed. The humor faded, replaced by a silence that carried the dead bridge crew with it. "They should have been here for that," she said quietly. Eddison nodded once. "They are why you are here to wear it." For a moment, the corridor around them went still. Repair tools sounded somewhere beyond the bulkheads. Power conduits hummed behind fresh plating. The Romulus breathed around her, wounded but alive, carrying the memory of those who had bought this moment with their lives. Yuna straightened. "Then I will not waste it." Eddison stepped aside and gestured down the corridor toward her office. "That is what I expected you to say." Vice Admiral Yuna Adam resumed walking, each step steadier than the last. Ahead, her office waited. Beyond it, waited personnel files, promotion orders, empty bridge seats, and the first hard work of turning loss into command. Eddison let her take a few more steps before adding, almost casually, "And with that promotion, your fleet authority increases as well." Yuna slowed again. "Define increases." "Your previous fleet command stood at 40 vessels, Eddison said, hands clasped behind his back, as if he were discussing routine inventory, instead of handing her enough firepower to change a sector map. "As of this morning, 40 more ships have been added under your operational authority." Yuna stopped dead. The medical officer sighed quietly. One of the security guards wisely looked at the ceiling. 40 more, Yuna repeated, turning slowly toward him. "You added 40 more vessels to my fleet." "Correct, Vice Admiral." "That gives me 80 ships." "Your math remains combat capable." Yuna stared at him as if the fleet admiral had just placed a loaded star system in her hands and called it a promotion gift. "Eddison." "Do not make that tone at me," he said. "You were already commanding like a vice admiral before the paperwork admitted it. 40 additional vessels is not paperwork." "No," Eddison agreed. "It is trust." That silenced her. Edison's voice lost the teasing edge. "The fleet lost officers in the Nova ambush. Some ships are damaged, some crews are grieving, and some captains need a commander who understands what surviving that fight cost. You do. You also understand the Romulus, Destiny, Death Corps tactics, and how Nova thinks when it believes fear will do the work of strategy." Yuna looked down the corridor toward her office, but the doorway now seemed farther away than before. Personnel files and promotion orders had been waiting there. Now, an expanded fleet waited with them. "Which vessels?" she asked, because shock could wait, but command could not. Eddison smiled again, but this time there was pride beneath it. "A mixed reinforcement group, 10 destroyers, 12 frigates, 6 cruisers, 4 heavy carriers, 6 logistics and repair vessels, and 2 dreadnoughts, all transferred under your command pending your review of their captains." The number settled over Yuna with the weight of armor being fastened across her shoulders. 80 ships, hundreds of thousands of lives, a fleet large enough to defend worlds, break blockades, and answer Nova in a language even emperors understood. "You are giving me a war command," she said. "I am giving you the command you earned," Eddison replied. "What you make of it is up to you." Yuna absorbed that for a long moment. Then she straightened, and the new rank seemed to settle into place, not as a reward, not as comfort, but as responsibility. "Then I will need those fleet manifests in my office within 10 minutes, she said. Eddison's grin returned. "There she is." Yuna started walking again, faster this time. "And Fleet Admiral?" "Yes, Vice Admiral." "Next time you double my fleet, tell me before I am standing in a corridor with a doctor ready to check my pulse." "Noted," Eddison said. No promises. Chapter 26. After receiving the promotion, the expanded fleet authority, and more responsibility than any recovering officer should have been handed in a single corridor, Vice Admiral Yuna Adam finally reached her personal office aboard the Romulus. The room also served as her sleeping quarters, a private command suite tucked behind reinforced doors and layered security fields. It was not large, but it was hers. A desk fixed beneath a broad tactical display, a narrow sleeping alcove sealed behind a sliding partition, a wall of encrypted storage cabinets, and a viewport that looked out across the repair cradle holding her wounded ship. Yuna paused just inside the doorway. For a moment, she let the silence settle around her. The office still carried traces of who she had been before the ambush. An unfinished duty report on the side display, a sealed personal drawer, a training blade mounted beside the storage wall, and the faint scent of shipboard air filtered through systems that had survived fire, decompression, and grief. She crossed to the desk, lowered herself into the command chair, and pulled herself closer with one controlled motion. The chair adjusted automatically to her new posture, reading the altered weight distribution of rebuilt legs and the power signatures from her left arm. Yuna noticed, frowned at the reminder, and then ignored it. There was work to do. Her desk display awakened beneath her hand. Fleet manifests unfolded in layered windows. 80 vessels now under her authority. Captain evaluations, casualty reports, bridge candidate dossiers, promotion recommendations, repair schedules, and sealed files marked for Vice Admiral review. The amount of work waiting for her would have made a healthier officer curse. Yuna only leaned forward. Fleet Admiral Eddison remained near the door, watching her with the wary expression of a man trying to decide whether command discipline or medical authority would be more useful if she collapsed into the paperwork. "Can you handle things from here on out?" he asked. Yuna did not look up right away. She opened the first personnel file, scanned the officer's combat history, and moved it into a review queue. "That depends," she said. "Are you asking as my fleet admiral, or as the man who keeps assigning doctors to follow me?" Eddison folded his arms. "Both answers matter." "Then yes," Yuna replied, finally glancing at him. "I can handle it. I will review the bridge candidates, issue preliminary promotion notices, sort the new fleet captains by readiness, and send you anything that smells like politics, incompetence, or both. That is a long list. I have a large desk." For a moment, Eddison looked like he might argue. Then he saw the steadiness in her posture, the focus in her eyes, and the way the Romulus's systems had already begun routing command data to her station, as if the ship itself had been waiting for her hand on the desk. He exhaled through his nose. All right. I will be heading dirt side to my barracks. I have my own work details to begin. Yuna's eyes flicked briefly toward the viewport, where repair drones moved like sparks across the hull. Ground training schedules? Ground training, aviation rotations, shipyard priorities, ammunition logistics, medical recovery assignments, and the delightful task of making sure half this fleet does not try to work itself to death before Nova gets another chance. Sounds familiar, Yuna said. Do not use my problems to justify becoming one of them. Yuna gave him a look over the top of the personnel file. I would never. That was the least convincing statement you have made all day. Despite himself, Eddison smiled. Then his expression softened. Yuna. She stopped scrolling. If your vitals shift into red, if the implant starts misfiring, if destiny tells you to stop, you stop. Yuna met his eyes. The humor faded, leaving only command, grief, and the stubborn will that had carried her through the impossible. I will stop before I break, she said. Eddison studied her for a long moment, then gave a reluctant nod. Good enough for now. He turned toward the door. It opened for him, spilling corridor light across the office floor. Fleet Admiral, Yuna said. He paused without turning. Yes. Vice Admiral? Thank you for trusting me with the fleet. This time, Eddison did turn back. I trusted you with more than that when I let you walk onto this ship. Yuna held his gaze. I know. He nodded once, satisfied enough to leave and worried enough to hate it. Eddison out. The door sealed behind him, leaving Yuna alone with the hum of the Romulus, the glow of 80 ship manifests, and the quiet weight of a bridge waiting to be reborn. Her personal comm buzzed before she could open the first file. She lifted her wrist and accepted the channel. One more thing, Fleet Admiral Eddison said, his voice carrying the same casual tone he used whenever he was about to drop trouble on her desk. There is a replacement commander I decided to recruit personally. She will arrive in 20 hours, directly from Seoul. Wait, hello? Hello? Yuna stared at the dead channel, then lowered her wrist with a tired glare. Damn that old man. She opened another channel. Captain Roberts, do me a favor. Bring Lieutenant First Class Merrick, Jane Gonzalez, Lee Chung, your rookie pilot from Death Corps 9, Thomas Hanks, and your veteran pilot to my personal office when you have time, Vice Admiral Adam ordered. This is a command review, not a social call. The channel closed. For a moment, Yuna sat perfectly still, replaying her own words in her head. Then her expression tightened with horrified realization. God damn it, she muttered, dragging one hand down her face. I'm starting to sound like Eddison. 20 minutes later, the corridor outside Yuna's office filled with the disciplined sound of boots, armor joints, and one very nervous pilot trying not to breathe too loudly. Captain Roberts arrived first, as expected, his uniform sharp despite the long hours of repair duty. Lieutenant First Class Merrick stood half a pace behind him, expression controlled and unreadable. Jane Gonzalez carried herself with the steady confidence of someone who had survived enough hangar fires to stop being impressed by rank. Lee Chung looked calm, hands folded behind his back, eyes already studying every sensor plate and security field around the door. The rookie pilot from Death Corps 9 stood near the rear of the group, helmet tucked beneath one arm and posture too stiff to be natural. Beside him, the veteran pilot looked relaxed enough to fall asleep against the bulkhead, which somehow made him seem more dangerous than everyone else in the corridor. Thomas Hanks brought up the end, quiet, broad-shouldered, and watching the others with the patience of a man who preferred engines, weapons, or anything else that made more sense than officer politics. Roberts pressed the door chime. Captain Roberts, and requested personnel reporting, Vice Admiral. For 1 second, there was no reply. Then Yuna's voice came through the panel, flat and tired. "Enter before I decide paperwork is less annoying than people." The door slid open, and the group stepped into the office one by one. The room was still crowded with holographic fleet manifests, promotion files, casualty reports, and bridge candidate dossiers. 80 ship icons floated across the desk display like a quiet accusation. Yuna stood behind the desk rather than sitting, her new left hand resting lightly against the edge, her rebuilt legs steady beneath the dark Death Corps uniform. Every officer in the room saw the same thing at once. The Vice Admiral was upright, armed with 80 ship manifests, and in no mood for sympathy. Roberts saluted. The others followed. Yuna returned the salute with crisp precision. "At ease. And before anyone starts looking at me like I escaped medical custody again, I have clearance to stand in my own office." The rookie pilot opened his mouth, then wisely closed it when the veteran pilot beside him stepped on his boot. Yuna noticed. "Good. At least one of you has survival instincts." Captain Roberts did not smile, but something in his eyes almost did. "You requested us, Vice Admiral." "I did." Yuna touched the desk display, and several personnel files expanded in the air between them. "Fleet Admiral Eddison has decided to be generous with other people's problems. I now command 80 ships, a half-rebuilt flagship, a sealed memorial bridge, and a replacement commander, arriving from Seoul in less than a day. That means I need a command crew before Destiny starts assigning people based on who annoys her the least." "For the record," Destiny said through the overhead speakers, "that would be an efficient selection model." "Denied," Yuna said without looking up. Jane Gonzalez glanced toward the ceiling. "The ship talks now." "The ship has always talked," Lee Chung replied calmly. Most people were not cleared to hear her complain. Destiny answered at once. "Accurate." Yuna let the brief humor pass, then hardened her voice. "Listen carefully. This is not a ceremony. This is not a reward line. Every name I put forward today will carry ghosts onto that bridge. The officers who died there earned more than empty seats filled too quickly. If I choose you, it means I believe you can honor them by doing the job better than grief wants to let us." The room changed. The jokes disappeared. Even the rookie pilot stopped looking nervous and started looking attentive. Yuna pointed to Captain Roberts first. "Roberts, you know these people. I want your honest assessment before I make final assignments. No politics. No protecting reputations. If someone is brilliant but reckless, say so. If someone is steady but not ready, say so. If someone is only here because you thought I needed bodies and chairs, start running now." Roberts met her stare without flinching. "I would not waste your time, Vice Admiral." "Good," Yuna said, "because I am short on time, patience, and bridge officers." Yuna looked over the group, then shifted her attention back to Roberts. "My first decision is simple. I am bumping your pilots up in rank, Captain." She tapped the display, and each personnel file lit in sequence. "Merrick, you are promoted to First Lieutenant. Jane Gonzalez, you are promoted to Lieutenant First Class. Lee Chung, pilot of Death Corps 9, you are promoted to Second Lieutenant. Joe Max, your veteran pilot, is now officially captain of 20 Squadron Starfighters." Merrick's expression barely changed, but his posture did. The controlled stillness he had worn since entering the room sharpened into something closer to attention than surprise. First Lieutenant was not a ceremonial step for him. It meant authority, responsibility, and the trust to stand closer to command when the next battle came. His eyes moved briefly to the sealed bridge memorial marker, glowing in one corner of the display. He understood what the promotion asked of him. It was not simply rank. It was permission to carry part of the dead crew's unfinished duty. "Vice Admiral," Merrick said, voice steady. I accept the promotion. I will not treat it like a reward. Yuna studied him for a moment, then gave the smallest approving nod. Good. Rewards make officers comfortable. Duty keeps them useful. Merrick accepted that without pride and without flinching. Whatever excitement the rank might have brought remained locked behind discipline. But when he stepped back into line, his shoulders were a little straighter than before. Jane Gonzalez took the promotion differently. Where Merrick locked his reaction behind discipline, Jane let one slow breath escape through her nose, the kind of breath engineers used when a pressure seal held after everyone else had already started praying. Lieutenant First Class was not just another stripe to her. It meant Yuna expected her to turn chaos into working systems, while the fleet relearned how to trust its own machinery. Her gaze flicked to the repair diagrams floating behind Yuna's desk, then to the sealed bridge roster marked in black. Jane had spent most of her career fighting fires no speech could put out. Ruptured fuel lines, overheated launch rails, shattered hangar doors, pilots landing on half a wing, and bad luck. She understood what this promotion really meant. More responsibility, less excuse. Fewer people between her decisions and the lives that depended on them. Vice Admiral, Jane said, her voice steady but lower than usual. If you are putting me closer to command, I will need full access to hangar readiness, flight deck repair authority, and the right to tell pilots when their machines are not fit to launch. The rookie pilot stiffened, as if personally attacked by the concept of maintenance. Yuna noticed and did not spare him. If Gonzalez says your fighter does not fly, it does not fly. If she says you do not fly, you find something heavy to carry until she changes her mind. Jane's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. That will save me time, ma'am. That is why I promoted you, Yuna said. You know the difference between courage and stupidity, and you are mean enough to keep them separated. This time Jane did smile, small and sharp. Then I accept, Vice Admiral. She stepped back into line with the same steady confidence she had entered with, but now it carried official weight. The pilots in the room understood it at once. Lieutenant First Class Jane Gonzalez had just been given permission to protect them from the enemy, their aircraft, and themselves. Joe Max did not react at first. For most of the meeting, the veteran pilot had worn the lazy confidence of a man who had survived too many cockpit alarms to be impressed by rank. But when Yuna named him captain of 20 squadron starfighters, that ease vanished. His shoulders squared by instinct, and his hand tightened around the flight helmet tucked beneath his arm. 20 squadron was not just a number. It meant pilots, call signs, training rotations, coffins waiting to be avoided. It meant being the last voice rookies heard before launch and the first one blamed if they did not come home. Joe looked down at the glowing file, then back to Yuna. Vice Admiral, he said, voice quieter than anyone expected. That squadron has lost people. I know, Yuna replied. Some of them were kids, Joe said. Good hands. Bad odds. Yuna's expression did not soften, but her voice did. Then make sure the next ones get better odds. The words landed clean. Joe Max absorbed them without flinching, then gave one slow nod. The relaxed veteran returned, but something behind his eyes had changed. The joke was still there. The swagger was still there. Now it had weight behind it. Understood, Vice Admiral, he said. 20 squadron will fly clean, hit hard, and come home loud. The rookie pilot beside him glanced over. Come home loud? Joe gave him a thin smile. Means alive, kid. Her eyes returned to Roberts. And you, Mr. Roberts, are being promoted to Major. Major Roberts, you will now handle strategic planning for 400 squadrons. You may still fly when I need you in a cockpit, but not always. Your job just became bigger than one fighter wing. For the first time since entering the room, Roberts did not answer immediately. The word major seemed to land harder than any combat maneuver. 400 squadrons meant thousands of pilots, hundreds of support crews, carrier assignments, rotation schedules, casualty replacements, ammunition reserves, maintenance backlogs, and enough tactical responsibility to turn a good officer old before breakfast. Roberts looked at the glowing promotion file as if it had just aimed a weapon at him. 400 squadrons, he repeated slowly. Yuna arched one eyebrow. That is the number. Yes. Vice Admiral, Roberts said, choosing each word with care. With respect, that is no longer a flight assignment. That is a small air force. Correct, Yuna said. Try not to lose it. A few of the pilots went very still. The rookie pilot looked as if he had just witnessed a man being handed a grenade with paperwork attached. Roberts drew in a slow breath, then straightened. The surprise vanished first. Then the worry. What remained was the same quiet steadiness that had made Yuna call him here in the first place. Understood, Vice Admiral, he said. I will need updated carrier assignments, squadron readiness reports, pilot casualty lists, ammunition reserves, maintenance backlogs, and every training evaluation from the last 6 months. Yuna's mouth curved slightly. Already in your command file. Roberts gave one sharp nod. Then I will begin immediately. That, Yuna said, is why I chose you. Finally, Yuna turned to the quiet man at the back of the room. Separate from the flight promotions, Seaman Thomas Hanks. You are promoted to Petty Officer 3rd Class. I expect you to earn the uniform before anyone has time to question why I gave it to you. Thomas Hanks did not move at first. Of all the names called in that office, his had sounded the smallest on paper. Seaman to Petty Officer 3rd Class. No squadron. No fleet planning authority. No title that made the room shift around him. But the promotion hit him with the blunt force of being seen. He looked down at his hands, scarred from tools, heat burns, and too many emergency repairs done while the ship was still shaking around him. Hanks was not a bridge officer, not a pilot, and not the sort of man who expected command attention. He was used to fixing problems before anyone important noticed they existed. Vice Admiral, Hanks said slowly, voice rough with disbelief. With respect, I was just doing my job. Yuna's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in recognition. That is exactly why you are getting promoted. People who say they were just doing their job are usually the ones holding the ship together, while everyone else is too busy calling it impossible. The room went quiet again, but this time the silence bent toward Hanks. Roberts looked at him with open approval. Jane Gonzalez gave a small nod, the kind engineers gave when they recognized another person who understood heat, pressure, and timing better than speeches. Even Joe Max stopped leaning like the bulkhead owed him money. Hanks swallowed once. Then I will earn it, ma'am. You already started, Yuna said. Now do it where people can see the rank that matches the work. Thomas Hanks straightened then, awkwardly at first, then fully. The new title did not make him look larger, exactly. It made him look anchored, as if someone had finally bolted his quiet competence to the deck where it belonged. They are not celebrating. Each promotion feels less like a reward, and more like Yuna handing them a piece of the dead bridge crew's unfinished duty. Merrick accepts his rank with discipline. Joe Max understands he now carries the lives of 20 squadron, and Roberts is stunned by the scale of 400 squadrons before immediately turning the shock into planning. The room shifts from nervous tension and dry humor into something more serious. Responsibility, grief, respect, and readiness. By the end, the officers understand that Yuna is not simply filling empty seats. She is rebuilding command out of loss, and every person in the room has just been asked to help carry that burden. Chapter 27. Yuna let the silence hold for one more second, then clapped her rebuilt hand once against the edge of the desk. All right, people, get to work. Play hard, work hard. No, let me rephrase that before Roberts files a training complaint. Train hard. I expect a lot from every one of you. She swept her gaze across the newly promoted officers. Dismissed. When the door sealed behind them, the office fell quiet again. Yuna looked back at the glowing personnel files, then at the black memorial marker still attached to the sealed bridge roster. And the hard part, she said softly to herself, is finding replacements for my former bridge crew of the Romulus. The office also served as Vice Admiral Yuna Adam's sleeping quarters, and after hours of reviewing personnel files, bridge candidate dossiers, and fleet manifests, exhaustion finally caught up with her. She sealed the door, dimmed the tactical displays, and allowed herself to rest. 20 hours passed. The door buzzer snapped her awake with an angry chime. Yuna opened one eye, immediately regretted being conscious, and dragged a hand across her face. I'm up! I'm up! She muttered, voice rough with sleep. Hold your tits, will ya? Then, louder, she added, Come in. The locked door slid open with a sharp hiss. Yuna sat up halfway, ready to curse at whichever officer had decided sleep was optional. The words died before reaching her mouth. Standing in the doorway was the replacement commander Fleet Admiral Eddison had recruited from Seoul. Yuna stared, shock cutting clean through the last of her exhaustion. Her new commander was none other than her sister, the former captain of the Phoenix Patrol Fleet. You, Yuna said, her voice caught somewhere between disbelief and exhaustion. Why you? I thought you were waiting on your ship repairs ever since I sort of saved your entire patrol fleet from that space squid. The woman in the doorway folded her arms, the corner of her mouth lifting with a familiar, infuriating confidence. I was waiting, Yuna Adam said. Then I received new orders from the second-tier military sector. They reassigned me to the Dark Fleet. Death Corps now, apparently. She stepped farther into the room, her gaze moving past Yuna to the quiet tactical displays and the wounded ship beyond the viewport. I was excited at first. I did not know it would be the Romulus until I saw her from a distance. Then I recognized the ship, and I knew exactly whose command I was walking into. Yuna looked back at her sister, the humor fading into something softer. I was reassigned to be a dreadnought new commander. Yuna stared at her for several seconds, then slowly pointed toward the chair across from the desk. Sit down before I decide this is a concussion dream and start throwing medical equipment at you. Yuna stepped inside and let the door close behind her. Still dramatic when you wake up, I see. I lost both legs, an arm, my bridge crew, and 20 hours of sleep, Yuna said. I have earned dramatic. The smile faded from Luna's face. She crossed the room more slowly now, her eyes dropping for one brief moment to Yuna's rebuilt left arm before returning to her sister's face. I heard some of it, she said quietly. Not all. They kept the details sealed until I accepted transfer. Yuna's jaw tightened. Eddison recruited you personally, didn't he? He did, Yuna admitted, lowering herself into the chair. He said the Romulus needed someone who could challenge you without being afraid of you. Yuna narrowed her eyes. That old bastard weaponized my sister. Technically, Yuna said, he promoted existing family trauma into a command asset. Despite herself, Yuna barked a tired laugh. It hurt, but not enough to regret. You sound like him already. Do not insult me on my first day, Yuna replied. Then her expression softened again. Yuna, are you all right? Yuna looked away toward the viewport. The Romulus hung beyond it, half-armored in new plating and half-scarred by memory. That depends on which part of me you are asking about. The part that is my sister. That answer landed harder than rank ever could. Yuna's rebuilt hand rested against the blanket, fingers flexing once with controlled mechanical precision. "I'm alive," she said at last. "Some days that feels like a victory. Some days it feels like a debt." Luna leaned forward, elbows on her knees, all trace of teasing gone. "Then let me help carry it." Yuna looked back at her. "You know what this assignment means. My bridge crew is gone. I have 80 ships, wounded captains, replacement officers, a flagship that talks back, and a war with Nova waiting to eat anything weak." "I know," Luna said. "I will not go easy on you because you are family." Luna smiled faintly. "Good. I would be offended if you did." Yuna studied her sister for a long moment. "And you will not go easy on me because I am recovering." "No," Luna said, "but I will stop you before you confuse destroying yourself with leading." The words cut close enough that Yuna looked down. For a moment, the only sound in the office was the low hum of the ship and the distant rhythm of repair machinery through the hull. "You always were annoying when you were right," Yuna muttered, "and you always hated needing help." Yuna lifted her eyes. "I still do." Luna stood and crossed to the desk, stopping on the other side of the glowing personnel files. "Then hate it while accepting it. I am here, Yuna. Not as charity. Not because Eddison pitied you. I am here because you need a commander who knows when to argue, when to obey, and when to tell you that you are being an idiot." Yuna gave her a thin look. "That last part sounds personal." It is a family specialty." Yuna leaned back against the pillows, exhaustion creeping back into her face, despite the stubborn set of her jaw. "Fine. You want the job? Then tomorrow we start with the bridge roster. No sentimental choices. No political appointments. Every officer earns the seat." "Agreed," Luna said. "And if Destiny starts ranking candidates by personality compatibility, delete the list." Destiny's voice came through the overhead speakers. "I object to the assumption that my personality assessments would be inaccurate." Luna looked toward the ceiling. "The flagship talks back." Yuna closed her eyes with a tired sigh. "Constantly." Destiny replied, "Only when surrounded by questionable leadership decisions." Luna's smile returned, small but genuine. "I think I'm going to like this ship." Yuna opened one eye. "Do not encourage her." Luna reached across the desk and rested her hand over Yuna's rebuilt one. The touch was careful, not pitying. "Get some more sleep, Vice Admiral. Tomorrow we rebuild your bridge." Yuna looked at their hands for a long moment. Then she gave the smallest nod. "Tomorrow," she said. "And Luna?" "Yeah?" Yuna's voice softened. "I'm glad it is you." Luna's expression changed, the teasing mask slipping for just a heartbeat. "Me too." Luna drew back slightly, as if another thought had just caught up with her. "I almost forgot," she said. "I received a text from you about a month and a half ago. Was that really from you?" Yuna's expression changed at once. The small softness in her face dimmed, replaced by the faraway look of someone hearing alarms no one else could hear. "Yes," Yuna said quietly. "As far as I can remember, it was from me." She looked down at her rebuilt hand, watching the fingers close and open with mechanical precision. "It was during the ambush, right after the Nova Empire blew straight through my bridge. Everything was fire, alarms, static, and broken voices." Luna's face tightened. "Yuna." Yuna swallowed hard, but she did not look away from her hand. Sarah Connor was there too. She was still trying to keep navigation alive even after the first strike tore half the console apart. The room went quiet except for the distant hum of the Romulus around them. She did not make it, Yuna said, the words barely above a whisper. Luna lowered her eyes. The old teasing confidence disappeared completely now, leaving only grief and the careful stillness of a sister who wanted to reach across the desk, but knew the wound was deeper than touch. "What did the message say?" Yuna asked. Luna hesitated. Only a few words. Broken, like the signal was dying. It said, "If I do not answer, remember, I tried." Yuna closed her eyes. For a moment, she was back on the burning bridge, Sarah's voice cutting through smoke, Destiny screaming damage reports, and her own blood floating in red droplets through failing gravity. "Then it was me," Yuna said. "I do not remember sending it clearly, but I remember thinking I might not get another chance." Luna reached across the desk again, slower this time, and covered Yuna's hand with her own. "You got one," she said. "You are here." Yuna opened her eyes, grief still there, but steadier. "Sarah did not," she said. "Neither did the others. So tomorrow, when we start rebuilding that bridge, we do it right." Luna nodded. "Then we do it right." But Luna kept one part of the truth to herself. The text had definitely come from Yuna. There was no doubt about that. But the wording Yuna remembered did not match the message Luna had received. Not exactly. Maybe the trauma had blurred it. Maybe the signal had been broken. Or maybe Yuna's mind had buried the real words because they hurt too much to face. Luna lowered her gaze, hiding the concern that moved through her eyes. "I will wait until my sister is fully healed," Commander Yuna Adam thought. "Then I will ask her again." Because the text had not sounded like a simple farewell. It had sounded like a goodbye written by someone who did not believe she would ever come home. "Hey, little sister. I hope your day is treating you well. I don't know when I'll be back again. Anyway, take care. Godspeed. And I miss you lots." Chapter 28. The following day arrived under a colder silence aboard the Romulus. Vice Admiral Yuna Adam and Commander Yuna Adam entered Yuna's office with the uneasy discipline of officers who had survived too many surprises to trust a quiet morning. The viewport showed the repair cradle beyond them, flashes of welding light crawling over the ship's scarred hull like distant lightning. For a moment, neither sister spoke. They only sat across from one another, carrying the weight of the bridge they still had to rebuild. Then every display in the office dimmed at once. A single red line burned across the tactical wall. It stretched from the bow of the Romulus to the far edge of the projection field, thin as a laser sight and long enough to make the room feel smaller around it. Destiny's voice followed, calm, precise, and far too satisfied. "Vice Admiral," Destiny announced, "final upgrade integration is complete. The Romulus has received a new primary kinetic weapon, a spinal railgun mounted through the reinforced dorsal structure." The schematic unfolded above Yuna's desk in layers. Armor braces, power conduits, magnetic acceleration rings, recoil dampeners thick enough to anchor a city, and at the heart of it all, a single projectile suspended in ghostly blue light. It was nothing elegant, nothing graceful, just an 8-foot tungsten rod, dense, silent, and merciless. The kind of weapon ancient Earth had imagined when it still believed gravity was the cruelest force in war. "The concept originates from old Earth military doctrine," Destiny continued. "DEATHCORE engineering has modernized it with quantum magnetic launch systems and antimatter-assisted acceleration. Estimated muzzle velocity is 120% of light speed. Impact modeling suggests the weapon can cripple a dreadnought with one direct strike, or fracture a hardened orbital fortress if fired at full charge." The projection shifted again, placing the new railgun beside the weapon profile of Fleet Admiral Eddison's flagship, the Iron Verdict. The two signatures matched almost perfectly. Yuna slowly leaned back in her chair. Luna stared at the display, as if destiny had just announced that someone had bolted a controlled extinction event to the top of the ship. For one full second, the only sound in the office was the low hum of the Romulus around them, as if the ship itself were waiting to hear whether its commanders approved of becoming a weaponized apocalypse. Then, in perfect unison, Yuna and Luna said, "Holy shit, that is overkill." Destiny was not finished. The railgun schematic folded aside, replaced by a rotating model of the Romulus's rebuilt main bridge. The old command deck, once a sealed memorial of smoke, blood, and shattered consoles, now appeared in layers of new armor, reinforced command pits, and blue-white tactical light. And, Destiny added, with unmistakable satisfaction, the main bridge of the Romulus is nearing completion. A new dedicated command feature has been integrated into the pit: shield control. The projection descended into the command layout. One by one, stations ignited in order across the bridge pit: weapons, officer, tactical officer, communications officer, shields officer, and finally the ensign's support station. The new shield console pulsed at the center of the formation, tied directly into the Romulus's defensive grid like a second heartbeat waiting beneath the hull. For a moment, Yuna forgot the joke sitting on the edge of her tongue. The bridge had been a tomb yesterday. Now Destiny was showing them the shape of its resurrection: new seats, new systems, new defenses, and empty places waiting for living officers brave enough to inherit the dead. Then Destiny's tone brightened, almost proudly. Shield officer integration will allow independent defensive response during high-speed fleet engagements. In plain language, Admiral, the Romulus can now take a hit, answer with the railgun, and complain less dramatically afterward. Yuna slowly turned toward the ceiling speakers, one eyebrow rising despite herself. "Destiny," she said dryly, "if you sound any happier, I'm going to assume these upgrades came with a personality patch labeled Smug Bastard Deluxe. You get one railgun, one shield station, and suddenly your circuits are walking around with their chest out." "I am a warship intelligence," Destiny replied, sounding far too pleased. "I do not possess a chest. However, if I did, I acknowledge that it would currently be presented with exceptional confidence." Luna leaned back, arms folded, and stared at the ceiling. "That means yes," she muttered. "The ship is absolutely strutting." "Correction," Destiny said, her voice bright with digital smugness. "I am not strutting. I am conducting a morale-enhancing victory lap through my own diagnostics." Luna looked at Yuna and deadpanned. So not strutting, just emotionally power-walking through a mirror maze while admiring her own reflection. One day earlier, after Vice Admiral Adam promoted a few selected squadron pilot starfighters down on the docking bay of the Romulus. Some had pride and proudness. Some believed they didn't deserve it, but accepted it. And one absolutely announced it to the entire bay while drunk. "Holy shitballs, you're fucking conscious again another day being trapped in a flesh prison, while the universe deep-throats your sanity. Your mind's currently operating with all the fucking clarity of a drunk octopus, trying to fuck a doorknob time, bending over it and asking for it raw. Brain firing like a vibrator in a blender. Fucking exquisite. You're experiencing reality like a schizophrenic rabbit on mushrooms. Your souls violently break, dancing between dimensions, while your body's still trying to figure out if asshole have taste buds. The morning is just not fucking with you. It's having a complete mental breakdown and dragging you into its psychotic orgy. Now rise like the absolute mind-fucking phenomenon you are. You're not just waking up. You're skull-fucking the fourth dimension," First Lieutenant Merrick said. For half a second, the docking bay went completely silent. A wrench clattered somewhere near Starfighter 12. One junior mechanic slowly lowered his plasma cutter, as if Merrick's speech had just violated several known safety regulations. A group of deckhands beside the fuel umbilicals stared at him with the blank, haunted focus of people trying to decide whether they had witnessed leadership, a medical episode, or the birth of a new religion. Then the bay erupted. Laughter slammed through the docking bay in waves, bouncing off the high ceiling, the open fighter racks, and the armored bulkheads. Pilots bent over their knees. Crew chiefs wheezed into their gloves. Someone on an upper gantry laughed so hard he had to grab the railing with both hands. A loader operator leaned out of his cab and yelled, "Put that man in charge of morning announcements," which only made the bay howl louder. Major Roberts stood near the squadron line with one hand over his face, shoulders shaking despite his best effort to look disappointed. He failed completely. When he finally lowered his hand, his expression carried equal parts: surprise, amusement, and the resigned suffering of an officer who knew this incident would somehow become his responsibility. "Merrick," Roberts called over the laughter, "get down from the loader before Vice Admiral Adam promotes you again, just so she can demote you properly." Merrick swayed, considered the order with grave military seriousness, then pointed across the bay at no one in particular. "Major, with respect, morale is currently airborne." That finished everyone. Even the crews who had been too tired to laugh joined in, the sound spreading through Docking Bay 12 until it drowned out the repair tools and engine tests. For a few minutes, the Romulus did not feel like a wounded warship in a repair cradle. It felt like a ship with a pulse again, scarred, exhausted, grieving, and alive enough to laugh at one drunk pilot declaring war on the morning. Roberts shook his head, still smiling despite himself. Around him, promoted pilots stood a little less stiffly. Mechanics returned to their work with grins hidden under visors, and the laughter lingered in the bay like heat after a weapons discharge. It was not celebration exactly, not after what the fleet had lost, but it was release, and on the Romulus, that was close enough to count. Then the shipwide comm crackled overhead, cutting through the laughter with Destiny's perfectly calm voice. "Correction, First Lieutenant Merrick. As official ship intelligence of the Romulus, I have reviewed your statement and determined that all of it could have been reduced to one word." The bay went quiet again, but this time it was the dangerous kind of quiet, the kind that happened when every pilot, mechanic, deckhand, and officer aboard knew the ship herself was about to make the situation worse on purpose. Destiny paused just long enough for maximum damage. "Awesome." For one full heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Docking Bay 12 completely lost whatever discipline it had been pretending to maintain. The laughter came back twice as hard. A mechanic collapsed against a missile cart, slapping the metal with one hand while trying to breathe. Two pilots at the squadron line leaned on each other, both laughing too hard to stand properly. Someone dropped a diagnostic tablet, picked it up, saw Destiny's single-word evaluation still blinking across the bay status screen, and immediately lost control all over again. Major Roberts tried to restore order by raising one hand. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was looking up at the ceiling speakers, with the betrayed expression of a man who had expected the ship intelligence to help him instead of joining the mutiny. "Destiny," Roberts said, voice strained. "You are not helping." "Incorrect, Major," Destiny replied. "Morale has increased by 37%. Breathing irregularities among bay personnel indicate elevated amusement. I am helping efficiently." That finished the bay again. The upper gantry erupted. The loader operator gave Merrick a formal salute with a grease-stained glove. Even one of the security officers near the blast doors turned away, shoulders shaking in silent defeat. Merrick, still standing unsteadily on the ammunition loader, pressed one hand to his chest, as if Destiny had just knighted him in front of the entire fleet. "You hear that?" he called. "The ship understands me." Regrettably, Destiny said. The crew howled.